Now, the Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, has described illegal immigration as a scourge affecting the UK on an historic and unprecedented scale in an opinion piece for the Daily Telegraph newspaper.
His comments in the paper come ahead of an announcement on how his party would tackle illegal migration, where he's going to pledge to detain and deport people coming into the UK illegally. Let's speak live now to the head of the Reform UK Department of Government Efficiency, Zia Yusuf. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you for your time. A mass deportation, then, of illegal immigrants. Do you want to just run us through the headlines? How are you going to achieve that?
Well, look, there's clearly well north of 1 million people now in the United Kingdom illegally. We've had north of 160,000 people cross the channel illegally over the last 8.5 years alone. As Nigel says, this is a national security emergency. It's a fiscal emergency. It costs the British taxpayer at least £7 billion a year now to accommodate these people. That's before the burden on the NHS. So what we're going to do is launch an emergency programme over 5 years, after we win the next general election, to deport everybody who is in the country illegally. We will create a new agency called UK Deportation Command. They will have sweeping powers to be able to detain, to first of all identify and then detain illegal migrants. They will then be deported to the country from which they came. They will not be able to get bail. So the sort of industrial complex of so-called human rights lawyers who undermine the human rights of British citizens in favour of, in service of foreign citizens will come to an end. In fact, the era of mass illegal and legal migration will come to an end under a Reform government.
Only a year ago, Nigel Farage was asked about supporting removing all illegal immigrants. Back then, he said it is impossible to remove all illegal immigrants. It is a political impossibility. And then he was asked if it was an ambition for Reform UK, and he said, no, it's pointless even going there. It is a political impossibility. We simply can't do it. So what has changed in a year?
Well, what's changed is we've done the work. Nigel didn't say it was impossible. Yeah, he said it at the time. He said it was a political impossibility. His view on that clearly has decisively changed because of the facts on the ground and the fact that we've now done the work. Look, this not only can be done, it must be done. The social contract in this country is hanging by a thread. We've seen mums protesting writ large across the country outside these hotels, which are costing the taxpayer about £150 per night per migrant to put them there. And here's the other point. Boat crossings under this Labour government are over 50,000 people have come to this country illegally since Keir Starmer came to power. The vast majority are military-age males from countries that hate this country. The country is a tinderbox because Britain has lost control of its borders. It has lost its sovereignty. The only way to restore that social contract is to embark on this programme.
But that's quite a flip-flop, isn't it, by Mr Farage to say 12 months ago it's politically impossible, and now he's saying, yeah, we're going to do it.
Well, again, we've done the work. And Nigel has taken the view that this not only can be done, it must be done. As Winston Churchill said, he who never changes his mind never changes anything. I think it's admirable that Nigel has come to this view. There's a detailed plan that we publish today. Look, what's most important is that no one in political life in the UK has made more of the fact that our borders have been invaded. I mean, he's been using the word invasion for decades, actually, now. And anyone who's in doubt about whether that is the correct term to use, I want to remind them that over 160,000 people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 8.5 years. That is more men than stormed the beaches on D-Day. This is a national security emergency, and our plan today is a proportionate response to that.
So you say you're going to get rid of all the asylum hotels and you will hold people on disused military bases before they are sent back to their home countries. When are you going to tell us which military bases you would use for that?
Well, look, military bases are one option. There's also 100,000 square miles in the UK. We're going to use any sites that make sense. We have got a long list and a short list of sites. Look, the reason why we're not going to get bounced into handing that information to this Labour government, because if we do, there's no doubt that sitting 8 points behind us now in the polls, they will do whatever they can to sabotage a Reform government. If we hand over Labour, we all know they will turn them into... But
what about for our viewers who are thinking about who to vote for and where to align themselves politically? I'm sure they'd like you to give that kind of detail. It's a lack of detail that you're criticised for time and time again.
I think what people listening to this will need to decide is whether they want people in any sort of accommodation at their expense, where these people who came to our country illegally are allowed to wander around freely and potentially commit crime, as is happening at an alarming and increasing rate. Under our plans, regardless of where they are in the country, they will be detained. The perimeter will be strictly enforced. They will not be allowed to roam around inside the community. And this is a temporary program. So regardless of where they are, regardless of the accommodation, they will be gone at the end of Nigel's first term.
How comfortable are you with sending somebody back to Eritrea or Afghanistan and then they are executed by the authorities there on their return?
Well, look, we're not going to embark on a plan with the intent of sending anyone to that fate, but we've got to prioritise the British people, and we make no apologies for that. Look, how many times
that's what it would mean, though, isn't it? That's what it would mean, potentially sending thousands of people, say, back to Afghanistan to face the Taliban, who will know that they tried to come to the UK and seek asylum.
Well, then I would put it to you, why on earth is Britain, why are the British people being asked to accept thousands of Afghan, largely men, I want to be really clear about this, are fighting age males, not women and little girls, fighting age males. North of 75% of the people coming from Afghanistan are fighting age males coming across our borders illegally and then being deposited into local communities where in some cases they are terrorising young British girls. You'd have to explain to me why the British people are being asked to put up with that. That is the priority of the Reform Party, and that will be the priority of Nigel when he's the Prime Minister.
What about those asylum seekers who are not adult men? What about unaccompanied children? If you're going to send all illegal migrants, and you're classing illegal migrants as anyone who comes across in a small boat, if that includes an unaccompanied child, would they also be sent back?
Well, look, we're going to start with a north probably of 650 to 700,000 at least adults here who are here without children.
What about
the vast majority?
Unaccompanied children
as part of phase one of the plan?
Phase one. So when do we get to unaccompanied children? When do you send them back?
It'll probably be towards the latter half of that 5 years. But we've got to get that first phase done, and that is the most important part to do, because it is not the unaccompanied children, minors, by the way, who are committing the crimes that people are so worried about. What we've got to do is focus, as I said, initially on that 650 to 700,000 adults who are here, mostly men, by the way, majority men who are here without children. And by the way, I want to be really clear. Not only are we planning on deporting the people who are already here illegally, by doing this, we will stop the boats from coming. Because why on earth would somebody cross the channel only to be immediately arrested, detained and deported back to the country from which they came? There is precedent for this, for example, in Australia. There's also precedent from America, where whatever you think of President Trump, he has embarked on 150,000 arrests through his ICE enforcement agency and embarked on mass deportations, and illegal border crossings from Mexico are down 97%. I want to say that again. Under the new Trump administration, illegal border crossings are down 97%. It can be done, and it will be done in Britain too.
And if you get into power, are you talking about new arrivals, or are you going to go back in time to people who arrived 12 months ago, 5 years earlier, 10 years? I mean, how far back are you going to go?
We're talking about anybody who is here on an illegal basis. So if you have been here 10 years and you've been below the radar and you have no right to be here, then you need to be removed. Look, this is about the rule of law. This is about the social contract. There will be people listening and watching this program who have paid taxes their whole lives, who have played by the rules their whole lives, who are struggling to make ends meet, who are at their wits' end about the fact that people who come to this country illegally and take advantage of the goodwill, the famous goodwill of the British people. Well, that goodwill is now exhausted, and that is why we have to stand up for our borders. If we don't have borders, you don't have a country.
Nigel Farage has said that people should protest peacefully to demand the closure of asylum hotels around the country. Can you remember how many times you mentioned asylum hotels in your manifesto at the last election last year?
Well, we had a contract with the people, but one of the key points here is not to get hoodwinked into a conversation just about hotels.
I'll remind you didn't mention asylum hotels specifically once in your manifesto, but now you're calling for protests when there are half the number of hotels that there were a couple of years ago. Are you basically just following the crowd rather than leading the political debate?
Number one, Nigel's been making videos in the channel now years and years and years ago. You can go and watch YouTube and go and see that. But I want to be really clear. The reason why we didn't talk about hotels then is because the conversation about hotels alone is a thoroughly dishonest one. The only reason those hotel numbers have come down is because those residents of those hotels, those illegal migrants, have been deposited into houses of multiple occupation, generally terraced homes in estates, where without any permission or in many cases knowledge of local people. There's a good case to be made that that is worse than hotels. The only way we're going to resolve this problem is, number one, making sure these illegal migrants are detained. They cannot be allowed to just wander around and interact, and in some cases terrorize local communities, and then deport them. That's what we're focused on.
We have to leave it there for now, but Zia Yusuf from Reform UK, thank you for your time.
Thank you.